Hi guys, this is IGCSE O-Level Chemistry, paper 12, November 2015, question 11. Which row correctly describes whether the reaction is exothermic or endothermic? So the first reaction is calcium carbonate being converted into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So this is decomposition, and decomposition requires heat energy to break the lattice of the ionic salt so that CO2 gas can be removed from it. So this should be an endothermic reaction and not an exothermic reaction. Next, carbon plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide. This is a combustion reaction, and combustion reactions are always exothermic and never endothermic. Methane plus oxygen gives carbon dioxide plus water. This is also a combustion reaction, so it has to be exothermic and not endothermic. And the last one is sodium plus water. So this is reaction of sodium with water to produce sodium hydroxide and hydrogen. This also gives off energy. Because energy is given off, it is supposed to be an exothermic reaction and not an endothermic reaction. So out of the four given reactions, the one with the correct enthalpy change, that is exothermic, is burning of carbon and oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, making option B the correct option for this question. Question 12. The diagram shows four experiments in which equal volumes of aqueous acid, all in excess, are added to equal masses of metal. Both acids have the same concentration. Okay. In which experiment has the metal completely reacted in the shortest time? So we have HCl with copper granules and HNO3 with copper granules. So HCl will not react with copper granules. HNO3 will react with copper granules, but very slowly. So next we have HCl with zinc granules, which will react. And okay, in B it is HNO3 with copper powder, not granules. So it will react, but again the reaction would be relatively slow. HCl with zinc granules will react, but slowly because these are granules, whereas HNO3 with zinc powder, since the surface area has been increased, the reaction would be very quick. In fact, out of the four given experiments, this should be the one with the fastest result. That means it should take place in the shortest amount of time. So this makes option D the correct option for this question. Question 13. The element vanadium forms several oxides. In which change is oxidation taking place? So we have VO2 in which oxygen will have a charge of -2, so a total charge of -4. In order to balance this, vanadium will have a charge of +4. And this goes to V2O3, oxygen having a charge of -2, so 3 twos are -6. And this one would have +6, but there are two vanadium, so +3, because +6 would be divided by 2. So here the change is +4 to +3. So this is reduction taking place. Next, we have V2O5, in which oxygen will have a charge of -2, so a total charge of -10. To balance this, we will have a total charge of +10, and then divide by 2, we will have a charge of +5. So +5 going to, now VO2 we have already solved. It should have a charge of +4. So +5 to +4 is reduction and not oxidation. So this is not it either. Next, V2O3. We have solved this. V2O3 has a charge of +3, and VO. In VO, oxygen will have a charge of -2. So to balance this, vanadium will have a charge of +2. So in this case, +3 going to +2 is also reduction. And finally, we have V2O3 in which vanadium has a charge of +3 as previously solved, and V2O5 in which vanadium has a charge of +5 as previously solved. So we have +3 charge going to +5 charge. So an increase in positive charge would represent oxidation, which would make option D the correct option for this question. Question 14. Which reaction is not a reversible reaction? Combustion of alkanes. Combustion of alkanes means that alkanes would burn in oxygen producing CO2 and H2O. So this is not a reversible reaction. Hydration of aqueous copper to sulfate. So we can evaporate the water and crystallize it so that we can get back copper to sulfate and then heat it to remove all the water to make it anhydrous. So this is reversible. Melting led to bromide. So we heat it to melt it, then we cool it to get it back into its solid form. So this is reversible. And thermal decomposition of hydrated cobalt chloride. So this would release water. So once water is removed, we can get back water by adding water to the anhydrous cobalt chloride salt. So in this way, the reaction becomes reversible. Therefore, the correct option for this question is option A. Question 15. The reaction between magnesium and carbon dioxide is represented by the following equation. Magnesium plus carbon dioxide gives magnesium oxide plus carbon. Which statement describes what happens in this reaction? Carbon is oxidized. So in carbon dioxide, oxygen has a charge of -2, so a total charge of -4. To balance this, carbon has a charge of +4, and it goes to elemental carbon, which will have a charge of 0. So going from +4 to 0 is reduction and not oxidation. So this is incorrect. Magnesium is reduced. Magnesium has a charge of 0 because it is elemental magnesium. Then it goes to MgO, in which oxygen will have a charge of -2. To balance this, magnesium will have a charge of +2. So we are going from 0 to +2, which is oxidation and not reduction. So this is incorrect as well. Next, neither oxidation nor reduction happens. No, we have just discovered both of them are happening together. It is a redox reaction. So this statement becomes incorrect. And lastly, the carbon in carbon dioxide is reduced. So we have +4 going to 0, which is reduction, which is correct. So this makes option D the correct option for this question. Question 16. Which element forms an acidic oxide? So the places of these elements in the periodic table are for A is for lithium, B is for magnesium, C is for sulfur, and D is for argon. Now argon would not react. Lithium and magnesium would form basic oxide, and sulfur would form sulfur dioxide, which is acidic. Therefore, option C is the correct option for this question. Question 17. Which property is not characteristic of a base? It reacts with a carbonate to form carbon dioxide. No. An acid would react with a carbonate to form carbon dioxide, not a base. So this is not a property of a base. Next, it reacts with an acid to form a salt. Yes, a base would react with an acid to form a salt. Next, it reacts with ammonium salt to form ammonia. Yes, ammonium salts are acidic in nature. So when bases react with ammonium salts, ammonia gas is given off. It turns universal indicator paper blue. So for universal indicator, we have the red color representing acids. We have the green color representing neutral solutions, and we have blue or purple color representing bases. So it turns universal indicator blue. So a base would turn universal indicator either blue or purple. So this statement is also true for bases. Therefore, the correct option for this question is option A. Question 18. A sting from insect X has a pH of 6 and a sting from insect Y has a pH of 8. The table shows the pH of 4 substances. So we've got hydrochloric acid with a pH of 1, sodium hydrogen carbonate with a pH of 8, sodium hydroxide with a pH of 14, and vinegar with a pH of 5. So which substances are used to treat the two stings? So the sting for X is having a pH of 6 and that for Y is having a pH of 8. So we would use weak acids and bases to treat these, not strong acids or bases, because their pH is so high that they would neutralize the sting and actually cause more damage because they would increase or decrease the pH respectively. So we do not use hydrochloric acid or sodium hydroxide to treat the sting. So for the one with the pH of 6, we would use sodium hydrogen carbonate, and for the one with the pH of 8, we would use vinegar. So options are hydrochloric acid and sodium hydroxide, incorrect. Sodium hydrogen carbonate and vinegar, correct. Sodium hydroxide and hydrochloric acid, incorrect. Now vinegar with a pH of 5 to treat an acidic sting, this is incorrect. And sodium hydrogen carbonate with a pH of 8 to treat a sting with which is having a pH of 8. So this is incorrect as well. This should be the opposite. For X, sodium hydrogen carbonate should be used, and for Y, vinegar should be used, making option B the correct option for this question. Question 19. A salt is produced in each of the following reactions. Magnesium plus dilute hydrochloric acid would give magnesium chloride plus hydrogen gas. Zinc oxide plus dilute sulfuric acid would produce zinc sulfate plus water. Sodium hydroxide plus dilute hydrochloric acid would produce sodium chloride plus water. And copper carbonate plus dilute sulfuric acid would produce copper sulfate plus CO2 plus H2O. So these are the salts that are produced: magnesium chloride, zinc sulfate, sodium chloride, and copper sulfate. Which statements about the products of the reactions are correct? A flammable gas is produced in reaction P. So reaction P produces hydrogen gas, which is flammable. So this statement is correct. Water is formed in all reactions, not in P, because in P we have production of magnesium chloride and hydrogen gas, not water. So this statement is incorrect. And the next one, all the salt formed are soluble. So magnesium chloride is soluble, zinc sulfate is soluble, sodium chloride is soluble, and copper sulfate is soluble. Yes, all salt formed are soluble, making the statement correct. Since statements 1 and 3 are correct, option C is the correct option for this question. Question 20. The table shows the symbols of three metals with names that begin with the letter C. Which row correctly shows the melting point of the metals? So the metals are cobalt, which is a transition element. We have chromium, Cr, which is a transition element. And we have Cs, which is cesium, which is a group 1 metal. So transition metals have high melting points. So everywhere they have high written, it would be correct. So this would eliminate options C and D. Now, cesium belongs to group 1. Group 1 has a lower melting point compared to all other metals. So the one which is correct would be the one stating a low melting point and not the high melting point. So option A gets eliminated, making option B the correct option for this question.